So, dear friends, what things does a normal child like to see? Was Ved's childhood different from other children? Let's find out. So, as you see in the slide here, in India, as elsewhere, every girl or boy has fond and warm memories of his childhood. Right from the day he begins to talk to his mother and father. Who play with him, or the servants who prepare his meals, or watch him play in a nursery full of toys, remembering each and everything. And all these things and memories that a child creates, he always remember. The child must also remember the rich colors of butterflies and birds. With children everywhere always love to watch. And these colors make all the children so excited. But when I was 3.5, this is Ved talking. So when he was 3.5 years old, all his memories were expunged, and the prolonged sickness, meningitis, I started living a world of four senses, that is, a world in which colors and faces and light and darkness are unknown. The child started feeling that, and as you remember that I explained you the four senses, he couldn't feel any of those senses. He felt lost. He felt completely lost in that moment. He couldn't see the darkness or the lights or the faces. But Ved couldn't see anything. As you can see, day, light, everything. But Ved couldn't see any of it. He couldn't see the colors. He couldn't see anything. So as you see in the slide, if my age and the sickness deprived me of the treasured memories of sight, they also reduce things which are valued so much in the sighted world to nothing more than mere words, empty of meaning. The child felt losing his memories. I started living in a universe where it was not the flood of sunshine steaming through the nursery window, or the colors of the rainbow, a sunset or a full moon that mattered. But the feel of the sun against the skin, the slow drizzling sound of spattering rain, the feel of the air just before coming out of the quiet night, the smell of the grass on warming morning. He couldn't see any of it. He couldn't understand any of it because the sight was not there. It was a universe where at first, but only at first, I made my way fumbling and flattering. But this made him used to his routine. He accepted that he was now blind. How did Ved's family react to his blindness? Were they very unhappy, or did they think he would recover? What did they do about his problem? Let's see the answer of this question. It was good that I lost my sight when I did, because having no memories of seeing, there was nothing to look back to, nothing to miss. I went blind in November 1937. At that time, we were living in Gujarat, in the province of Punjab in northern India. After my sickness, we moved to Lahore. A few miles away, but the number of relatives who came to sympathize made my father ask for another transfer, this time to Karnal. Where we had neither friends nor relatives. There got a cottage on the canal bank, built in very peaceful and quiet surroundings. At an age of complete inaction, therefore, followed my blindness. In part, this was due to the immediate shock of the illness, but more important still, the difficult situation was caused by ignorance of the potentialities of a blind child, since the only blind persons my parents saw was beggars. But now, by fate or by the will of God, blindness not only struck on a child of well-to-do family, but that of an excellently trained doctor who found his training in this instance useless. Still, his wide medical experience had prepared him for an acceptance of his tragedy, and he understood that any course of action must begin with the realization that I would be blind for rest of my life. His father knew that he is going to be blind forever. Another question we have here is that Ved's mother had her own ideas of why her son went blind. She also had her own methods of treating him. What were they? Did they do any good? Because she believed that her child could gain his sight. My mother, on the other hand, could not convince herself that my sight would never return. She did not have the medical experience of my father, and she blamed something in her past for the tragedy. She kept blaming herself. The family Pundit, upon whose advice my mother had relied almost from her childhood, was called in and consulted. He knows more than about religion and science, mother said with pride. Because the mother has been asking for advice from her own childhood. And she believed that this Pandit knows more than any other Pandit in our province. After a while, he took my hand and examined the lines, the hand of Veds. And then he looked at the mother's and he studied her forehead. Mumbling steadily, he said, he found himself inadequate and more Pundits would have to be consulted. The mother said, okay. The other Pundits, they prescribed methods ranging from intensive prayers to Srinivas's physical exertions. And for a fee, they agreed to perform part of necessary religious ceremonies. Each Pandit's advice were carefully heeded. The mother listened more and more to the Pandits. The Surmas that the Pandit gave, which were administered at all hours of the day and night, burned and stung my eyes. But the only soothing part of the miserable ordeal was loving care of mother afterwards. One day in the night, when my mother was administrating these eye drops and I was protesting with loud cries, my father unexpectedly returned. He asked, and I told him why I was crying. He was very angry. Then he gently lifted me from her arms and took me away. With steady hands, he bathed my stinging eyes. After this incident, even though we stopped going to Hakim's, now and then applications of Surmas continues till I was 11 years old. But they were very mild, and my mother always obtained my consent in advance. Earlier she used to force him, but now they always asked for consent. Now we would like to take a break.